So we're gonna go back in time a little bit here. This is probably a couple years ago. At the time, and as of right now, this is the best description I have of what the book is about. And as you notice, it takes me almost an hour to tell you what it's about. So, before you watch it, just letting you know, it's extensive, and I'm a little bit scatterbrained myself about things at times. But if you want to know what it's about, this is probably the best video I have as of right now to tell you what's going on. Now, if there are any questions, I'll do my best to try to answer them. But just bear in mind, I'm probably going to have to update this video and do an entirely long telling of what the world is, what the story is about. So let's just jump into this right away.
But I wanted you to talk about your book a little bit and like the premise of your book before we close out, because I really got to piss. But I want
I have to piss too.
But we can take a quick piss break.
All right.
And then we'll get, because I want to get into your book a little bit.
Okay.
So we'll leave it running and then I'll pause it during the editing process. Feel rejuvenated.
I feel young. Like a changed person.
That's when you know it's a good piss. So
Getting older.
I want to know about your book, man. Okay. I know a little bit, but I want you to tell me like the premise.
Okay.
And treat me as someone that you're
sell it to you.
Sell it to me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I won't talk about how I wrote it. I'll just talk about what it's about.
All right.
I get lost in that. So the other thing was, the book is built around, at its core, fantasy.
Okay.
Right? And that fantasy takes place in a world that doesn't exist. I made it up. It's my own world. It's called Yuandra. The nations that it focuses around are on the continent called Atria. There's Vas, Atrovia, and North and South Ansar are just divided by a mountain. One of those things. It's a land feature division. Groups of people all live there, right? So, if I were to give you the prologue, there's something called the Circle. This is separate. I'll go back to how the world is. I don't know why I went there. I should start here.
Okay.
There's something called the Circle. And within the circle, everything is in its right place and all is right. At the center of the circle is God's realm, creation. And from creation, it spins out everything that needs to be in its proper place. I'm here in the realm. Whatever I need here came from creation. It's spun out. Think of like the center of a galaxy. It's spinning. It's putting everything where it belongs. Think of the circle as a galaxy.
Okay.
That's kind of how you could visualize it. Except it's a mind. So that's what it is. Now, there's a lot of different groups of things in there. I don't really know how to describe it yet. I can't think of the right word.
Entities?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Beings of some description that live within a realm, like here on Earth. How would you describe a human being if you didn't know what a human was? Like things that live there. That,
I gotcha.
Like, yeah. So they all live separately in little areas, and the center is creation, spinning and just throwing things out. Like you spin something in water, you see the waves just.
Right.
And it's doing that. There was a group of beings called Aeon who understood that there was something outside of the circle. They're like, something's outside of this. We know it is. And they found the way through. And the way through was through the astral. And they found the strings.
Astral plane? Okay.
The strings of astral. The crossroads to reality, essentially, is like the dream world. Because, it's kind of real, but it's not, It's a figment, but there's like rules in a weird way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they found the key to that. And through that, they found an empty place. And this empty place had these weird things that lived in it. It was a giant black place with all these little tiny like neurons living inside of it.
Just like balls of light or something, or like orbs or something.
Something,
yeah.
But lack of light. They're just like, you could feel their presence, like
Okay.
a ghost. Okay, I guess is the best way to describe it. Like I couldn't touch it, but I could tell there's thousands of it, like over there. Like, look at the way the glistening of the water is, just
Right.
like that. Can you describe what that is? Glistening waves, water.
Yeah.
They're like that inside this dark place. I didn't mean to call them Aeon. I meant to call them Titans.
Okay, so the Titans
They're
were the ones that
Titans,
found
yeah.
the way out.
Titans found the way out. I'm sorry.
Okay,
That was the
okay.
first things, okay? And they saw that this was a place that they could make their own, but they needed to make it their own. Now, they took these little beings and they gave them life. They took a world and wrapped around this darkness, and it is within the world. And they put the little creatures on it and said, you have life. Some of the Titans thought it was their job from the Creator to bring these beings into the realm of the circle. Why are they outside of it? We need to bring them in. That's our
Okay.
job.
Okay.
They thought they were tasked by the Creator to do this. And so when they did that, they made the Inakume, these people. And
That's what they became. Okay.
kind of like mix an elf with a fucking tree. You know what I mean? Like they're made more of that than they are this, essentially. And so they live their lives. Oh, they're growing. They're doing things in that. And they've infused them with this power that these Titans have. And then these beings were crying out that they miss what they called Mother, this entity that they lived within.
Interesting.
And so what they said was, well, we can put Mother in this world, this essence, whatever that blackness was, we can concentrate it inside the world. And they did that, and then the conduits of it were the great forests grew. So all these beings retreated to the forest and listened to what Mother wanted, and then they did it.
Okay.
And so but they lived in a world like this. Now there were some Titans who didn't like this. They created this world. One Titan, whose name was Dove, he was involved in creating parts of the world, and he was angry that they were ruining his creation. So he didn't like these beings. So he started making dark, twisted beings to fight them back. Then his buddies were like, you can't do that, dude. And so they captured him and said, we're going to send you to the Creator, and he will punish you. So they sent him to the realm of creation. They're the only beings that knew how to go back and forth. No
That
other-
was that initial
Bam.
galaxy thing.
Yeah, and they brought him back into the circle to the realm of creation to be judged by the Creator. And then time went on, and it seemed to be okay. And then all of a sudden, the Aeon came. That's the other people I made a mistake with.
Mm-hmm.
The Aeon didn't come with good intent. They were told to destroy the Titans. So they destroyed the Titans.
They found their way out into
Mhm.
that world too.
And they fought a war against the Titans, a war of the gods it was called. And what happened was there was these people in the circle that could see the events happening in the realm of, we'll call this the realm of life, where the planet is. And they said, that's no good. And they're like, well, the Creator told us to. Well, that's no good. They sent their beings, called the Naniran, and the Naniran were the people that basically said, we're sent here by these ancient fucking observers to stop this from happening. And so they fought a war with the few remaining Titans against the Aeon. And the Titans had created their little Anaku, so they helped them. And each of the Aeons, who were part of the Dark Pact within themselves, created their own individual species. They also, for some reason, felt they had to create here. This realm is where you, for something draws in you, where you have to make something. If you're to come here, you have to create something. I don't know why it's a draw within their minds, but it is. And so they made their own little species, unknown to the Inaku and the Titans. Well, the last Titan died, and then Aniran helped the Inaku destroy the last of the Aeon and curse them into certain areas. The main Aeon that was cursed was called Dulag, or his other name, I don't remember his other names. He's got a couple names. He was trapped in the World Tree as a prison. This is kind of a different tree. I haven't described it yet 'cause I'm not really sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened was, as he rotted away, kinda, went to this meditative state, he tried to get back out. He was trying to get back
Into the world.
to the circle.
Okay.
He wanted to get back in there. He's like, fuck this place. Then the Naniran, who were these kind of beings that, because they went to our world, they had to put on like a spaceman suit, right? But it was also kind of made of a stone-like material. They're called the Men of Stone, but it's not real stone. It's kind of
Stone-like.
something. So it's more like a suit.
To be able to withstand the conditions.
They have to wear these masks that inject this kind of gas into the mask to allow them to commune with their like creators in the other realm. And it's kind of like the idea of you get high on DMT and you can feel like you're speaking to this race. It's like that. That's what they're doing all the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Right?
Interesting.
And so they were tasked by the Naku king. He said, there are things stirring in the forest of the place, of where we inhabit. And the Nanir are like, well, we'll go look. And so they tasked all the Nanir, and there was probably like 7, I think. There wasn't many of them. And they kind of went to these separate areas. And each one of them discovered, well, most of them tried to, but they couldn't find the source. But this one that we know, his name's Quinlan, discovered in that song, he discovered in the forest a dark entity. I actually did a reading of this, and I'll
Was that the prophecy?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
This is this video I have not released yet. I was going to do that soon. And basically, in the forest, he could feel something stirring, something dark, but it didn't seem like evil. It seemed afraid, like as it was scurrying on the forest floor, looking for little things to eat and all that. And he went deep within the darkest trench of the forest, where the darkness was at its purest. And he went to search out whatever this was. And then he was with his partner, and they could sense it growing. And he's like, shit. So they had to go find it. And then when they happened upon it, the torchlight passed over. He saw hundreds of thousands of huddled, naked humans, just huddled in the dark.
That
like
was the
that.
thing that he saw?
They grew into that, and then all of a sudden he saw their heartbeat, but they were kind of translucent. You could see their heart beating
Like
in
they've
their
been
veins.
in darkness their whole life.
They were just born from this dark entity.
Gotcha.
So whether that's the thing comes up later or the Forgotten King. These are the beings created by the Forgotten King, later to be called Dulag. He created them. Those were mankind, us in the story. We're made in the forest. There they stayed. Quinlan's like, his partner is like, you got to destroy them. That's what we're here to do. And he felt sympathy.
He couldn't do it.
He's like, I can't kill them.
Yeah.
And it's because of him that everything else follows. So he
Because
goes,
he didn't do it.
Mhm. So
Gotcha.
he goes back to the king. He's like, it's fine, it's all good. The other Naniran
lied.
couldn't, yeah. The other Naniran didn't find anything, but there was other species born around the world. And now there's not just a Naku. There's a Naku, there's mankind called the Aeomen, because they're born
Ailman?
from
A-L-E?
Aeo men,
Okay.
because they're born from the Aeon. The Aeons are the creator, so
Gotcha.
Aeomen.
That makes sense.
There's Aeomen, Anaku, think of man, elf. There's bearded pygmy. I mean, I wouldn't just say dwarf. Then there's people called Islandiers, and then there's the Valen, and there's a couple like this. Those are races, like in any fantasy, and they were all created by this Aeons that were in the Dark Pact. And so time just kind of seemed to go on, and it was okay. Everything was fine. There's nothing wrong with the world. Everything seemed right. Then they discovered that these beings were growing, the Anaku, but they seemed to in time say, okay, well, nothing bad's happening. It seems fine. And so basically, down the line, some hundreds of thousands of years, I don't know, hundreds of years, I can't say. There's no linear time in this world. There was an incident that happened. And that thing, I call them Dove, that was sent to the realm of creation. Well, when the Titans were ruling, to go back in time, the lead Titan, his name was Theus, wanted to see if they were doing the Creator's bidding, and he wouldn't speak to him anymore. The Creator would just not talk to him. So he went to the realm of creation and found it was empty. And Dove wasn't there anymore. He thought. So when he went back, he didn't realize that he brought it with him like a tick. And what that thing he brought with him was fear. That was what was in the realm of creation, or the realm of the world.
Yeah.
That's why people needed to make more. People needed to do these dark things, fight wars, because there was fear. And that took hold of that Titan and grew on him, and to the point where it's no longer needed him. Found Theus, came back.
Parasite.
He brought the parasite back into the world. Now the parasite was thought to have been destroyed during the Great War that happened between the Titans and the Aeon. It was thought to have been destroyed by Dulag. The only good act he did because he cursed it and it hid. But little did he know, it kind of was in the same forest that his creations were in, that he secretly stowed away.
Huh.
And so basically I call it the whisper, because the whisper is a promise and the promise is happiness. Is as long as you do what I say, which is driven through fear, right?
Yeah.
So it was down there, and it happened upon a prince of Anaku, and I forgot his name. But basically, this is where the story gets very gray. The whisper tells him that you have to kill Dulak, the Forgotten King, in that tree. Last of the living Eomen known.
Or he's imprisoned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kill him. Okay, we can do that easily. Now, at that time, that's brooding. Man, it's hard to keep all this straight. So, with mankind, during the growth of the serpent, of the devil, mankind eventually was led by a man called Tan. Tan. And he was written, well, all I know about him, because it was Jacob's creation, was he looked at the canopy of pure darkness, and they dwelled in this darkness. When he found fire and he lit the tree on fire, it opened up and he saw the sun for the first time. Kramos. And it shined down and then it froze over instantly. And basically, essentially, he prayed for this divine being, the sun, to free them. Like, there's a world outside this darkness and we need to be in it. And basically what happened was the whisper pretended to be a god saying, "Follow me, my son, and I shall show you to freedom. Follow the wolves will get you out." Blah, 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 things happen, very Exodus of Moses style.
I like that, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they are open into the world. They see the land, and then that's where people of Tantorum, heaven's realm.
I've heard of that.
They open up the world and they live there, and like, this is amazing. And then the Anaku are like, oh shit, okay. They live together slowly. In time, the son of the Tan had children, and they had children, and then now we're talking about the great-grandsons, the twins of Odysseus and Tanais.
I've heard those names as well.
Odysseus and Tanais were kind of like brothers. They were destined for the throne. The older one was Tanais. He most likely was going to do it. Odysseus didn't really want that. He's like, I don't know. I don't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
But all that was ever taught to them was the Anaku were evil in the forest. Never go to the forest. That's where all the evil things are. Like, okay, that's the Greeks thought too. Odysseus was more curious about this. He's like, I don't know, man. I don't think this is right. And then Tanais is like, you better not. God said, because God's still speaking to us, the whisper.
It wasn't actually God, though. It was a
trick.
false.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's like, he said not to go in the forest. And Odysseus is like, I know. So he tries to go in the forest. He jumps over the wall that was created called the dividing wall. He gets himself hurt. He wakes up in the care of an Anaku like dwelling, I guess. Just think of how elves live, I guess. That's something I can think. And then he's slowly showing the way of the Anaku aren't bad people. You know, it's like what you're saying. Like, these are fucking like living things too.
Yep.
These aren't enemies.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It was very much that for him. And he met the king. And he said, these are good people. There's nothing wrong with them. And you flash over to Tanais. And it's like Cain and Abel, in a sense.
Yeah.
And he's like, your brother has committed a sin. Now, the whisper wanted this to happen the whole time. Because here's the plan that he's got going.
Because he knew his behavior and he knew. Yeah.
This is what he wanted.
Yeah.
He's like, you need to find your brother and kill him. And kill the king of the woods. And that was the Anaku king. Not the one in the tree. They don't know he exists
Yeah.
yet.
When a god's telling you you have to kill someone,
He's like, I gotta do it.
it's not a wholesome god. But
Oh.
go on.
So he goes in there with his forces of however many hundreds and thousands. And they just kill. All on the way. Just murder. Odysseus finds out about this, goes to the king. He's like, I'm so sorry, my brother, I don't know what to do. And then he's like, it's okay. Don't worry. Then his army is outside the city of, it's called Entrin, the Anaku capital in the forest. And Tanais walks up, nicely dressed, up into the throne room. And he has a few of his soldiers there. I don't know what those guys are called, but the ones that are just with you, just to make
Sentries.
sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He has them with him. He leaves his army outside the city. And he's going to try to broker a peace and stuff like that. He knows what he's going to do. The Anaku only ever understood love. And so he's like, I trust this thing.
Right.
And so he walks in, and essentially what happens was that king held a ward against the forgotten king, who was in this meditative state trying to get out, remember?
Right, yep.
That's where his body was. And what they did was, and this is where the prince comes in, that when I said that meant the whisper for the first time, the forgotten king had created himself a wife, and he killed the wife of the forgotten king that's in the meditative state. And so the forgotten king saw that, and he chased her through the realms of our area, the astral, until he was lost.
So he never returned to his body.
He couldn't find his body again.
Interesting.
And so what happened was, when Tanais stabbed the king of the wood, the Anaku king, he turned to stone, and his body did too. He'll never be able to return back. He's stuck.
So he's stuck in the astral.
He's stuck in the astral realm. Now, he was able to find... I'm sorry, it wasn't the astral. It was their own creation. Because death recycles. You go back to creation to be created again.
Okay.
He became stuck in the realm of creation. And so that's
Okay, I
where
gotcha.
he's forever stuck.
I got you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was all a trick. Odysseus was able to get as many Anaku as he could because... And he took them, and he was told in his vision by the forgotten king, I have created a way for you to find this holy place, because he knew this was going to happen, to get those Anaku to safety. Don't know why he turned a cheek like that, and he wanted to... Something happened within him. And so what happened was Odysseus took all these Anaku across the Murphos, this desert that's... It's like a dangerous desert would be, like the Sahara, but it's also like a magical place, barrier, where like...
Crazy shit happens or
Mhm.
something.
Gets
Yeah.
him through that, creates this land of freedom, like in real life with Moses going to the Holy Land,
Mhm.
just like that.
Yep.
This is our destinaria, and that place would later become called Adrana,
Like Israel is today.
the holy capital of the world.
Yeah.
Tanais, successful, thought his brother died, went back, and Tantorum just started growing. In time, they learned that they were tricked by a false god, and so they cut themselves off the frequency of God, and they are more loving, or they worship technology and sciences
Okay.
and warfare, because that's
So
where
they
man
they
holds
got rid of God and focused on their own creation, basically.
Mhm. So what happened was, when Tanais stabbed that king, the powers the Anakume transferred into him and through his people. Because consciousness of a leader creates the people and stuff.
Yeah.
His people were granted the power of the Dume magic. It was stolen from the Anakume. The Anakume are now mortals and are falling to the same things, where mankind don't become immortal, but they have a power. Now, the species all derive their power from their creator. Well, their creator just happens to be in the realm of creation, where there are no rules. You can create and make. It's creation. There's no limit. So they're drawing from an unlimited source.
Okay.
Where the other races draw from their Aeon. Well, if Aeon are dead, well, you don't have any magic to
Yeah.
draw from.
Yeah.
So we have an unlimited pool to cycle from. So in time, in Adrana, or in Tantorum, flash forward thousands of years, and there was a man named Ravian Spellsong Dovanik. Spellsong was this, like, he's a madman. And he thought people should be able to use these powers, because for so long they were subdued. You're not allowed to use power. This is not for you, says Tantorum, because last time we were tricked by a fucking Aeon. And we were tricked by a Titan and the Whisper. Fuck that. Don't fuck with this shit. And so
Yeah.
they imprisoned people that tried this. Mages were imprisoned. And so eventually he said, fuck that, let a revolt. He said he was told to take the people to the free land of the Anaku, where Anaku and man can live side by side. And that's what he tried to do. He was chased by the Mesotok Order, and those were kind of like people that, like, the Inquisition, kind of like that, but for
Okay.
mages.
Yeah.
And he said none of that. He led his people into freedom. He sacrificed his life in the Murphos for them,
So he got killed.
by a barrier, so they say. In Adrana, things began. Humans started kind of really taking over. First they lived side by side, but then man took over. Then they formed a religion around what they now understood because of Ravian, what he taught them, what the Forgotten King is, and him being the realm of creation. So they created the concept of freeing the king. Free him from the realm of creation, but they can't get him back to his body. That land is tainted, and we don't know how to do it yet. How do you reanimate a corpse?
Yeah.
So they thought that that's how you do it, and they knew that in real life, in our worlds, heroes are born, conduits, people that are destined to save the king. And they're like, oh, we're waiting for this man that can go into the astral realm, hazard the insanities, and get in there. Because like I said, life, astral realm, then you're faced with a dilemma. And that's where people go mad. And that's why we have this insane asylum for mages, that they take the ones that failed the test and they throw them in there. They became insane.
Wow.
So that happens, and they're trying to find the one that has the insanities and can fucking finally free the king. And that's their concept. But then because they fought an on and off war against Tantorum for, 808 years, it's called the War of Eights, 808-year war. It was like the War of Roses in our world. Back and forth with Tantorum, they corrupted the desert because of conflict, and fear grew there too, and so now it became impassable, divided the nations, and then they tried to go through the mountains, and it was traveling through the mountains with an army is like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
eventually they kind of parted and all that stuff, and they're like, fuck, they exist, we didn't get to keep them, like, fuck, man, like, damn it, Tantorum said about Adrana. Adrana's like, we are independent, we are no longer Tantoric people, we are Aomen. And so they're separate. They formed their government by mage kings, essentially. It just works like the feudal system did. I have the most power, and I just live here, and you're fine. But they're mages. And each of these mages are conduits for the king, and only they can practice magic. Little people, don't worry about it. That's not for you. No, you can.
They did teach it. They were capable, but
they don't need it. It's not, we need it. Just like it's in the real world.
Yeah, yeah.
Because of the wars, there was a peace offering, and the Valens came in. Now, those are those other people that were created, that are sent from mankind. They became the reciprocators of the mediators of their peace. They said they could help us with magic because they had this weird innate ability with nature and shit. Little by little, they guided us towards a new concept of, yes, saving the king, but in the meantime, draw from him. That's the power of creation. We could make things. We could cure diseases. We could do so much. Tricking them. Going higher, they are the creation of Aik Beovak, who despised the Forgotten King. And he wants to take mankind for himself. And how does he do that? Unite their consciousness, so he may latch onto them, and then through all their collective consciousness, because his people, remember I said they each are granted a power. Each Aeon granted their people power. He granted his people hive mind, so he could use them. The Forgotten King granted his people free will. They can do whatever they want. He wanted them to make a stance of what his mistakes were. And so Eik Beovak, this other Aeon, who was thought to be killed, but he was thrown and cursed into the muck. He became the Slop King. He's made up of mud, dirt, and just like a big blob. And he wants to replace the king in that realm because he thinks that's where the power lies. He's lucky. He's in that realm. I should be there. I can only get there through his creation. So he needs to unite all the creation. So he tasked one of his best called Martis. And Martis lived with the king of the Adrana and slowly confused them into drawing from the king. And then Martis can get power. He basically said, you're not a mage. You think you're a mage, but I'm the mage. You're the conduit. You draw it, and I will do, because, see, you guys are going insane trying to save him. Us Valanders won't go insane. This would be a good thing for all of us. That is a good idea. And so he's like, good. And he draws the power, and they can give it back to the Slop King, who's creating a dark army. Because his ally is the Whisper, and the Whisper tells him to create an army of darkness. And that army of darkness will be created by the ancestors. All of our ancestors are the army that the good guys got to fight against. They can draw from the pool that goes to the realm of creation. You draw the armies from it.
Wow.
And he could make human, like our fucking ancestors fighting us. That will be the orcs.
Are they able to be killed? Like, are they?
Yeah, because they inhabit like a husk.
Gotcha.
In a sense, and if you take away my head,
they're not like a spiritual entity.
Yeah, it's like a soul. If you kill me, like you kill my
their
body.
souls come into the. Okay,
and they can pull into these husks that he makes out of his slop, and so they're like,
wow,
that. Yeah, it's weird.
Huh? Cool.
And
for
so,
sure.
Yeah, I know, right? Still a lot of years, like 8 years in the making, and so because of all that, that's what's going on there. Aik Beovak wants man's consciousness. He'll do whatever he can. and then born separate from that is mankind trying to free their king, but also use their king because of the Valanders. And he wants the king's place. And there's a separate group called the Serpentine Order. They're a rogue group of Anaku that said, fuck mankind, we're going to destroy them. We don't want to disappear from the world. So they have a fortress where they do experiments on mankind and how they can prolong their lives. And it just so happens they found a way to do it. It's vampiric, though. We suck the magic from them to give us life. They're like the vampires of the world.
Yeah.
And so they're doing that, and they're trying to destroy, through that power, they can go to the realm to kill the Forgotten King. Instead of freeing him or replacing him, kill him, thinking if he's gone, then his power will be gone, mankind will disappear, and it will be all back to normal. Maybe the Titans will come back. Who knows? Because there's a being that's tricking them in the realm of the Circle. It's telling them to do this. A dark being that they don't know.
Yeah.
It's saying, you should do that. Because he might want something.
It just
there.
all has gotten corrupted, man.
Mhm.
It's crazy. Keep going.
And so, that's like all the meta. Well, that's all that's happened before. Now the book... the book is basically...
Nice. I like that. Keep
Yeah.
going. Keep going.
There's a kid named Eris.
I think I've read this part of
Mhm. I actually rewrote a lot of it.
it. Okay. Right on.
He's just like a kid growing up in Adrana, in this nation, and it is what it is. Big brother kind of shit. It's like only mages can be them. We can't fuck with the power. It's whatever. I live in a beautiful city. Now Adrana is built around the concept of closing the gates. They have this gated city. It's called a Vol. Not gated. It's actually like a fucking walled off city.
Mhm.
The yellow walls of Adrana or of Vol. Because the darkness is growing out in the world, they understand it as their mages, so they're closing themselves off. The Merphos acts as a barrier, and so do the Guy of All Mountains. So we can have a mental ward against this too. Stay in the walls, like Greek thought. Stay in the walls. It's safe here.
They're just like isolating themselves from the evil in the world. Gotcha.
And because there's conduits that were replaced out, there's barriers like walls, like created by the Forgotten King. They think they don't really know who created them. In the Merphos that act as like these invisible walls that I can't pass through, like a ward. And so Eris knows nothing. He's like he was me. He's like, I'm just hanging out, and I don't really know what I want to do with my life. I'm just kind of chilling. I think I'm going to try to go to college. If not, I can work for my dad in a little market stall. You know,
I do remember this. Yeah.
Well, there is the new promise that's come, where they think they found the one to save the Forgotten King. And they're calling the Lancer. His name is Freydin. We think he can do it. Now, he's just a tool by Martis, but they label him as we did it. This is the one that could save the king. It's almost over. And Eris and his friends are like, I can't believe that this might be over. What happens when we free the king?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then basically, they, I guess I'll explain what happens. Because I can tell the whole story, but I'll only tell the part where it's relevant. And then Aval comes under attack by something. And Eris has to flee. He knows it. He wants to go find his family. When he goes back to find his family, there's a man named Cyprus who stops him. He's like, you need to get out of here. You need to go to Ela. You need to come with me to Ela. He's like, fuck you, I don't know who you are. I'm not going to Ela with you. Some place in the mountains, essentially. It's like someone telling, like, dude, you need to go, like, fucking Nepal. Like, why? What are you talking about? It's safe, man. They know the answer's there. And he's just like, I can't trust this motherfucker. I'm going to go to my family. And he tries to trick him. He's like, fine, you want to go find your fucking family? Let's go.
I do remember this.
The story
Yes,
opens in the view of Cyprus. Because I kind of, you got to gamble and you got to commit. So what I committed was, it tells you right out that Cyprus and he was part of the Serpentine Order. He's like a half-breed, half Anaku, half man. He basically helped them kill Freydin accidentally. The Serpentine Order wanted Freydin because he was a powerful. They said, oh, he's the one that could free the king. They were going to snatch him, and that was their conduit. But they were going to sneak through him to go and kill the king. Because if he could have the power to go there, then they'll latch onto him. Well, they accidentally killed him, and Freydin released the curse. And so the city fell under attack from weird shit in Freydin's mind that he created because of magic. And so that was really happening. And Cyprus talked to this other guy. He's like, essentially, there's another one, you know, like, there's this kid.
There's another.
I know you could sense it. Remember that one?
Prophesized. Yeah.
That kid came and talked to me about you. I remember him now. There was something about him. He heard the voice of the king. Freyden never heard it. Only the real prophets can hear the word of the king, and that kid said he heard it. He's the one. That, go get him and take him to Elah, and he'll be our way. We kill him, then we can go through the portal. And Cyprus is only doing that because they're promising Cyprus, we can bring your son back from the dead. And he's like, okay. And he's fixed on this. So you get to watch a story of Cyprus slowly taking this kid to his death. The lamb to sacrifice. Yeah, that's what the story's about. Mm-hmm. And so you're watching him slowly have to find ways to be okay with knowing that I'm going to get this kid killed. But I can't let that affect me because I want my son back. But that whole metaphor, this is your son growing in front of you, that shit. And that's what he's doing. He needs to take him there. And Eris has no clue. He's just going along.
He's like, all right.
And then obviously it goes, but at that point, I would just ruin the whole book.
Right.
There's like a bunch of books that I know it's going to be.
That's
That's essentially what the story's about.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of moving pieces.
I like the backstory, for sure. And I like the idea of how like it all started so good,
Mhm.
and it's just like everything gets corrupted.
And every time someone wants to, because you'll see it later in the story, because I could tell you, but I tell you off camera. There's so many people trying to make it right, and all they keep doing is making it worse.
Yeah, it's almost like a perfect allegory of what we're going through in our own,
That's
in society.
The concept is make every group and character not a bad guy.
Yeah,
So the Serpentine are only trying to. It's mankind and Dulac's fault. They're just trying to be okay. They don't want to disappear from the world because they're slowly fading, and they're mortals too. The Serpentine Order is just trying to stop that process. Mankind didn't do anything; it was their creator. They're just living. Then there's these other groups that are doing things like I made every character a good guy,
in their own
in
perspective.
their own perspective.
Yeah,
There's no such thing except for fear. But
Right.
I expressly describe fear as fear is like when a tick attaches to you or a virus. It has no ill intent. It's just doing what it knows how to do.
Yeah,
Even the devil of my story, it could be a good guy.
yeah. That's a really cool idea because it's true. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of like, as far as philosophy goes, I'm sure you
It's
tied.
thoughtful.
Yeah. Just based on what you were talking about with
Jacob and
free
stuff.
will and determinism.
Yeah,
and
that stuff. There's so many layers because it's like one layer is like, how can someone justify doing an evil act? Cyprus. Let me do
Yeah.
a thought experiment. I write a Cyprus. How can I justify this is okay? Even though everything's screaming at me not. Then there's the philosophy of the Serpentine. How can I justify destroying a race of people to make mine okay? How do I justify that?
Right.
And anything that I try to do is a thought experiment. And it just, so many are happening at once, it's become a philosophical thing.
So it's called Forgotten. That's the title.
As of right now, because I don't know a good name, I'm just calling it The Forgotten, or just Forgotten.
So who are the Forgotten? Like, what is the title? Like,
Forgotten People?
What does it entail?
So the Forgotten People are this kind of thing that did they exist or did they not exist? Well, who are the Forgotten People? I have no idea. I think I made an episode of me trying to figure that out, and I can't even figure it
I
out.
think I just remember seeing that.
It was not it was one of those ones where I didn't have a camera yet. So it was just like me and an audio, and I'm trying to find out who are the Forgotten People. And I think they might be something that live with the Anaku, because there's like old writings that I found. That's kind of like, okay, well, it references them living side by side the Anaku. I only know the Naniran. So are the Naniran the Forgotten People? The Men of Stone? I don't know. But then I can't find any connection there. So I wrote all of the lore in 7 notebooks in the first few years of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of the years of me deciphering all that.
Trying to build something out of it.
Yeah, because that's what the Forgotten King's doing in the realm of creation. He has
Okay.
all these things of creation, and he's just trying to make sense of it all.
Gotcha.
The story is told through the eyes of the Forgotten King watching all this transpire. While
Okay.
he's in the realm of creation, he's slowly gone mad, and he wants out, and he will do whatever he fucking can to get vengeance and to get his wife back. So he will manipulate whoever the hell he can. And
Right.
He tries to manipulate Eris, like, oh, fuck, you can hear me? I need to inhabit your soul. Let me be in the realm, and then, it's one of those things. And now
Yeah.
he's fighting the Serpentine, who want him because they can help him kill the king. The Martis wants him because he can help them get at the consciousness of man. That's another group. And then the Forgotten King wants him because he can be his ticket out. Cypress wants him because he can help him get his son back. Everybody wants Eris, and he's just a kid that doesn't know what he wants. He's got to figure it out.
Dude, I am so amazed that you can contain all that.
Barely.
It's cool though. Like, I'm just sitting here like, I'm trying to pay attention, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, how does he fucking remember all this shit?
No,
I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it because I'm just trying. Like, I'm gonna have to reabsorb it. You know.
Everyone, even like Jacob, he's like, I don't know how to process this. I don't know how the hell you're doing it. And I'm like, I have no idea. Probably because
it's because it's your creation.
Not only that,
you know?
but as I said before, here's the real world. I'm like, fuck that. So I could tell you that, but I don't know the difference between a Democrat and a Republican. I don't really know who's president right now. I just like, fuck all that. I've invested
That's cool though.
The meta story. So it's philosophy with many different works inside of it. It's a piece about expression, all that stuff. But the meta is about me and my problem with escapism.
Interesting.
That's the main, the farther you zoom out, it's me with escapism. Why do I seek to fall in? So I am the Forgotten King in real life. I feel like him.
So you're drawing off that.
Those people are all stuck in here, and I'm stuck in this world. I want to get
interesting.
Here, so I'm trying
cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Again, it's a meta thing.
Yeah.
Everything's got a metaphor. Everything's got a reason. I didn't make one thing an accident, and nothing is a throwaway.
Yeah.
Like, not one thing, not even a character is like, he doesn't matter.
So all these where does stuff that like Kevin, like his models and stuff, where does that tie in?
That, right? So that's why I would always be like, well, I don't understand with all that stuff.
Yeah.
Kevin basically took the land of Tantorum and formed it. And through him, me, and Jacob, we formed the idea of what Tantorum was. Tantorum, Aurum, it means the realm of Tan.
Mm-hmm.
Tan was the man that freed mankind. They covet him. They were tricked by the Whisper, so they don't like religion or anything. So they're very atheistic. They're very agnostic, and they covet technology and sciences. They're very militaristic. They tried dominating the world, but they couldn't. They, like Rome, the South Ansar. Oh, they stormed there and. Basically, like the Gauls and the Roman Gauls, they became like Romanized. That's what they did to their own people out there. Then they became fringes. They separated. Now they're the South. That's Jacob's land. And basically, I tell them, build a world, build a land, build your people, build the story, build the lore, and they do that. And I'm like, what I just told you, bam. How do you decipher all that? And the way they decipher my theories of the world, the way I think time works, the way they decipher how I view politics, how I view philosophy. I ask them to really define what you think I'm saying and then base it on a people's. So if I say like, okay, the philosophy of the Forgotten King is to save him from the realm of creation. What do you think that means? Oh, I think it means blah, 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 blah. It sounds like it's your people, doesn't it? And so that's
there.
So it can be a counter argument to, it's a philosophy made by so far 3 men. That are like, here's what I think the world is, and you make your world that. So if I said, you want to join? You're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, take a land, make a bunch of shit up, and eventually come to me, and then I'll just throw things at you, and we'll see how your people feel. And then we just make it from there. And so, and obviously I say, make everything that you believe a metaphor or an allegory or a whatever for what you truly believe. Bam, that's what it is. And I just throw shit at you, like, oh, by the way, the Forgotten King might be evil. What do you think? Well, he could be. And they're like, okay, well, what's your religion say? And so...
Yeah.
And basically, I'm also like using it as an experiment, the Jacob and Kevin as human beings who are totally separate. Jacob has these ideological beliefs and political beliefs. Kevin had these. I'm like, okay, let's create characters. Jacob has his own personal character. So does Kevin. Bam. What happens if you guys really get together? You're fine. That's a concept. Why don't we explore with philosophy why 2 men can get together and be okay, even if they don't believe a damn thing the other man says. So that's what I do with those guys. It's like, I use it as a platform for thoughts.
That's great.
And stuff like that.
That's real,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Yeah, I remember you were asking me about doing music for it. I don't, this is all you, man. Like, I don't want to be involved. I like watching it. I like watching you talk about it. Like, I don't think I would be able to be involved writing it because I just don't think my fucking brain works like that, man.
I think it could. Theirs does. But, so here's what I think. personally.
Yeah.
This is not for me. I just created my world. The world is my brain. This is how I function. It's
Yeah.
all an allegory, metaphor for how I
Yeah.
look around. I'm just inviting you into what I'm seeing, and I want to see. Remember how I said earlier? Like, I don't want to give a lot of this away, but earlier I'm like, I think empathy is the one thing people should all learn. And all
Mhm.
that. This is me trying to do it. So that's why I'm inviting people in.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to say, if people think my brain works a certain way, I'll invite you in, and I want to see how you decipher this world,
Mm.
and then I can learn more, and so can you.
Yeah.
And so, like, I already know for a fact all the music of the Doorstops is in this realm, because this whole book, all this, I said it in one of my videos talking to Jacob, is built around memories.
Really?
Memories is the theme song to this whole book.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. I have the video in my head. I know exactly how, like, all the little things that'll happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because you and Kevin, and I put the bass line on that song because I wasn't really active then. I was like George, you know, like, I'll just come here and do this. And then you guys wrote that song, and I said, that's a world. And I want to explore it. Yeah.
Wow.
Memories, this world is memories. And everything in that song. And everything it invoked every time we played it, too. Not just the recording. But everything I ever felt in that song is this world.
I can kind of see that. Like, just going over, like, the lyrics
What
and
do
the
you think
vibe of the song.
the book's called Forgotten.
Yeah,
And
right.
the first line of Memories is, memories, they fade away.
Yeah.
It's like, it is, you already were. Because I built a lot of the music, everything you show me, I'm like, oh my God, that's this, that's that.
It's just
'Cause
tying it
it
together.
invokes.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm totally down. Like, there's no way you could ruin it unless you said, I wrote a song about that's so explicit and it's so like it's so racist that it's going to ruin it. Then I'll be like, that's a bit much.
Maybe not.
But if you could never write something, I'd be like, yuck, that ruined it.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
how do
think-
I know you capture it? It's like when you make a Lord of the Rings and they hired Howard Shore.
For
It's an
the-
outside entity
for
to
the
make all the
music.
music.
Yeah.
And what did he do? He captured it. He didn't write it.
The music is good on
Tolkien
Lord-
died.
Yeah.
But how did he capture the Shire theme perfectly?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
For
You invite
sure,
him in.
man.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would love to be that involved in that aspect. But as far as writing goes, dude, you got that shit. As far as like the storyline and shit, like that's all you, man.
Everyone plays a part.
Yeah.
So like I do all that shit, and Jacob does his own thing, and Kevin does his. Right? When I invite someone in, obviously for me it's full credit. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be like, oh yeah, totally did that. You know, everyone gets their full credit. Everyone gets their fucking name on it because it's supposed to be like a community thing. It's all of
Okay.
us. It's like how the band is.
Yeah.
If you write a song, and even if you wrote the bass line to it and the vocals,
It's
and I
still-
recorded the bass line the way you wanted and the vocals, you wouldn't say,
All
I did
me.
that, all the, you know what I mean? That's how I
Yeah.
look at the book. If you jump in, I'm not gonna be like, well, technically it's really mine, and he should have asked permission.
Right.
Fuck that shit.
Yeah.
It's the idea. It's a world. There's supposed to be more than one person in it. It's not supposed to be stuck in here.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like once everything's put together and shit, like that'd be cool to put some music on it, man.
That's the idea. That's kind of where all my music comes from. Everything I ever had, I always feel like I'm in there.
I watched a little bit of the Prophecy video. I didn't watch all of it, but I need to. But I watched a little bit of it, and I noticed you had music going in the background. Was that?
I didn't have my instruments when I was doing that because I forgot my fucking guitar at your place.
Yeah, you
and I was
did.
looking for it. I was like,
Yeah, you did.
fuck!
I kept forgetting to text you and say
Um,
that. But I was like, whose guitar is that? I'm like, oh, that's Andre's.
So I had to just grab a guitar track and just loop it a million times.
Okay.
It was like maybe like 30 seconds long. I'm like,
Yeah.
and it wasn't done very well, but it's supposed to sound crazy because you're in the realm of like insanity.
Mm.
So
Right on.
it's supposed to sound creepy and weird. And so then I finish out with Rain. I already put that song as a demo. I have the demo of Rain in the video in the channel too.
I think I heard that one too.
Saw the Rain. Yeah, that's because that's built on the prophecy. The prophecy is the rain bringer. That's another prophecy of the Aomen. The true Landstrider will come, and that will be Eris, not Freydin and Adrana, because they've been corrupted too by Valens. The true mankind lives in the Murphos. That's what the prophecy's about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm like, I listened to it and I don't have any real context to it, so it's hard for me to.
No,
like,
yeah, and
you know what I mean?
the thing is, too, I should probably make another channel, because the one channel is like all my lore stuff, the early stuff. That's like
Just make playlists, man.
I do. I tried to do it actually. And so what I would do is that is there because one day when I finally release it, How many times do we want to know how Tolkien made something?
Yeah.
Well, I'm recording it, so you can, like, how did he do that? Well, listen to the one about philosophy of the South.
You got everything backed up? Good, because you never know what'll happen, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. I'm taking a big gamble doing that, but there's no one's looking at it, and that's fine. The most views is about like 10.
Just as long as it's backed up, and if something happens to YouTube.
Yeah, I got it on.
Yeah. Good.
I got it in a separate area. Couple, actually. I got it in 2 different separate areas.
Good.
Everything that I do.
Because that definitely, you know.
Yeah, I know.
And I really do think it could be something cool, man. Like something that people really dig. And if they don't, fuck it.
I know.
It's what you did anyway.
A lot of work, man.
Yeah.
I know. That's where it gets.
That's like your life's work, you think?
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's like what you're. That's
It's
what
not
you're
gonna
dedicated.
Not going to be done the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Because every day I go at it, I make something new. Every day something's flattened out, and like, oh man, like I would say this happened when then that happened, like, and I'd go in there and define that, and then I look back, okay, it looks good, but then what about this? And then so I end up fixing a lot. Eventually, I got to sit down. I'm almost done with book 1, the first right. I haven't really done editing, like grammatical. I did some grammaticals.
What do you think it is?
It's about so far 110,000 words, and then.
I thought you were fucking right.
No.
It's sometimes it's hard to tell. Maybe like 110,000. Like Jesus Christ.
It's about, as of right now, that's kind of like how big the first Lord of the Rings book is.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about that. I think it was 115.
Okay.
Yeah, around there. So it's around there. It hasn't had its fat trim. I mean, it's like making a song.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I went through and it's a demo. It's
You're
not
just
even.
throwing it all out there,
I'm
and
not
then you'll
even
go back
done.
around.
Yeah.
And
I've done that a few times. That's why there's rewrites, because
Yeah.
you listen to the early part of the intro of that song, you're like, yuck, I got to redo that. You
Yep.
delete, and then you found a better way.
Yep.
Maybe that note was fucked or something.
it's the same.
It's got the same,
Process.
yeah, and then the
Yeah.
tone too.
Yeah.
So like when we were listening to the Sympathy for the Devil creation, that tone of the early, it sounded more like fun. And then somehow
with
they found it
acoustic guitars at the beginning.
and the way that they
Yeah.
were structuring it. Then it sounded more what we know was for
What we've heard up from the album.
tone change.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing in writing.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Make sure the tone is even.
Right.
Viewpoints are captured well, and
It's got to be kind of tricky to stay consistent.
it's 100%.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell's going on because I've never done this before. So it's
Yeah.
really like I don't understand any of this.
That's like kind of like when people make movies, like especially if they're working with an accent. Like how hard would that be to be consistent?
I don't understand by different days because
Yeah.
like if you're trying to stay like focused on a certain thing in like a chapter, for instance, I write. You try to get it all done as much as you can, but you might hit a block.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you
Or
come back maybe a week later, and it's like,
Shit.
how do you maintain that same tone throughout? Like that's one thing.
I
that
wrote a lot of. I have a file cabinet full of stuff.
Yeah.
So I do reports, or I'll write reports. That's what those episodes are. We're all like, okay, who are these people? 5,000 words. Tell me who these people are. What's the plot of the story? 8,000 words of what the plot is of the book. Then I just write. I call them reports. If I have a question, I'll sit down.
Just to throw it out
I'll do all the
there.
research and I'll type it up as if like it's a school project. And
Okay.
I type it all up, and then it's all there.
So you can reference it back.
You got to do
That
that.
makes sense.
It's like school,
Yeah.
essentially.
You're-
What did
that's-
you learn about this?
It's like the scaffolding, or
Mhm.
like the framing of a house,
And
like
yeah,
something
and-
to fall back on, like
Yeah.
a skeleton almost.
Exactly. I guess in like with music, it's like recording the like on here, like real quick, guitar. Okay, those are the chords. You didn't try to sing good. You just got it out. Like, okay, that's kind of what I'm going for. And you might say, this song reminds me of that. It's like that. You're just
Right.
getting the soul of it. What's
Yep.
the soul of this book? This chapter.
That way you can have something to fall back on. Yeah, that
when your
makes
brain
a lot of
doesn't want to
sense.
work, you got the plot laying right in front of you.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mhm. Finding ways to make shit simple, man. And everyone's got their own way. And I always wonder how people, because I can do it with music, but the book thing, it's like you're by yourself.
Yeah.
Because like I was saying to Jacob, I'm like, I'm not to say I'm on this level, but I'm trying to do what they did. There's a guy called Robert Jordan, to a degree, Brandon Sanderson, and then Tolkien, and like George Lucas or whatever. They're in a world of their own. Maybe take away George Lucas if we're talking about just writing. The people that you emulate are dead. They cannot give you the secret. As Tolkien was barely interviewed. So it's like, how the fuck did he do it?
Yeah.
And you're in a world of your own. It's not like I can go to another writer and say, okay, like, and they're like, well, I'm ready.
But they probably wouldn't even really be able to help you
No, they
anyways,
wouldn't.
you know, because it's your creation. It's not their creation.
And that's why I treat it like a band.
Yeah.
That's why I had Jacob and Kevin, and like I would want, like you, if you ever want to do it, I would say, of course, because it's like a fucking band.
Yeah.
Because then I can be like, we're in this together. We're
Right.
invested. We're here and that's out there, and we're making this. And fuck what people want.
Yeah.
And fuck like stupid, like, you know, like, and then this person's this color because he has to. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. If like there are people of color in my book, it's not the way we think of it. But that's fucking fine. It's like, you know, I will do it where it's necessary.
Yeah.
I'm not
It's
going to make agendas out of it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
dumb.
Which is really, it's really needed today.
Yeah.
And, you know.
I wanna, like,
So you're trying, like, let me ask you this. Are you trying to go back to that? Like, obviously you're trying to teach lessons through it, but you're obviously not trying to put an agenda in it either.
Mhm.
But, like, your goal is to bring back that style of story, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
That's one of the goals. The other one's to, it's a completion. It's like, you got to complete that album. If you have the
Yeah.
concept, you have to fucking finish it.
Yeah.
And the other goal is taking a picture of my mind with words and just saying, this is me, and this is what I made.
Yeah.
Putting a staple on whatever this fucking is.
Yeah.
You know what I
wherever
mean?
we are in.
That's one part. It's not. That's my ego. It's like, why do we put songs out? Because we know they're good and we want people to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, at its core, same thing. It's just, I know that this has potential.
Expression.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And maybe the way you view it could be a moment changer for someone that can enact change. That's kind of how I like to look at it.
Right on. Well, I think we should cut her down right here. That's this was a really good podcast, man. I'm really glad we did this.
Mhm.
I was kind of nervous at first.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah.
We could do this about every week, man. We
yeah,
should.
we should.
Should
Absolutely.
be like
we
we
should.
should be a team.
Yeah, man.
I mean, we're already writing music together.
Put one out every week. Definitely.
Do this. This is fucking easy.
Yeah. Yeah. So you'll have this up on your page. I'll have it up on mine. So, any final thoughts you want to put out there?
Blatant heat.
Blatant heat. Sand trap hand job. Okay. All right. I hope everyone has a good day. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.